One of the really worrying trends in the United States right now, really, under this new modern Republican Party, call it whatever you want, Trumpian or whatever the case may be. The thing is that facts truly do not matter anymore. And rewriting history to suit whatever point you're trying to make today, it has become a completely acceptable means to an end. It doesn't matter how you rewrite history. It doesn't matter what lie you tell about the past. As long as it supports whatever point you're trying to make today, it's okay for this modern Republican Party. Here's one new example from the 4th of July weekend. Donald Trump's former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, appeared on Fox News, and the context was making the point that conservatives are victims and that Democrats are unpatriotic. And Kayleigh wildly claimed that the founding fathers, the main founding fathers, were all against slavery. This is a lie. It's just a big fat lie. And we're going to look at what she said. And the context was that Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush said that July 4th is sort of a celebration for white people. Cori Bush said, when they say that the 4th of July is about American freedom, remember, the freedom they're referring to is for white people in the sense that we are celebrating the anniversary of a country which at year one, the date that is being celebrated was one in which black people were enslaved in the United States. That's the context. OK, let's look at what Kayleigh McEnany had to say about it.
Starting with you, Bill Bennett, the haters never take a day off from hating. That is clear. And they never take a day off of getting the facts wrong. We know most of our forefathers, all of our main founding fathers were against slavery, recognized the evils of it. There's a great piece to that end on Heritage called 1776, not 1619. But I'll leave it to you. You know, they're so wrong on so much. Where to begin?
So that is completely untrue. OK, that's really, really, really not true. Let's actually go through this because there's an opportunity to actually learn a little something here. The majority of the founding fathers of the United States owned slaves. Now, you could say, well, they owned them, but they were against it. We're going to come back to that. OK, but they were not against it enough not to have their own slaves. Now, I'm talking about Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, John Jay, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington, and many others. They owned slaves, some of the names you might not recognize as readily. There were a few founding fathers that did not own slaves. John Adams and Samuel Adams in Massachusetts, for example. Thomas Paine, I don't believe, is known to have owned slaves. Okay. So when Kayleigh McEnany says most of the founding fathers were against slavery, mostly they owned slaves. Now, what is true is that over time, many founding fathers, including some that owned slaves, started to recognize some problems with slavery. Some realized, rightly, that slavery was antithetical to the concept of freedom and liberty on which the U.S. was supposedly based. But some of them seemed more to be thinking about it almost like economically. Thomas Jefferson condemned the injustice of the slave trade in the initial draft of the Declaration of Independence. But there are counterpoints about whether, did that mean he was against slavery or did he just not like the slave trade as it was being carried out internationally? So even that, I mean, I'm sure people will write in and say, no, David, that's super clear. It was either this or it was that. There's some ambiguity to it, but he owned slaves. And then you had some who really wanted to change nothing about whether slavery was federally legal and just say it's a state issue. Now, if, for example, slave owner Benjamin Franklin in Pennsylvania supported anti-slavery causes, but not federally. You know, if South Carolina wants to keep having slaves, well, that's their thing. But in Pennsylvania, we shouldn't have slaves necessarily. So to call that being anti-slavery, again, this is pretty nebulous in many ways. So the point here is, was the opinion on slavery of the founding fathers maybe more complex than they were either for it or against it? Absolutely. Did some founding fathers have seemingly inconsistent positions on slavery? Absolutely. Did some of them change their views on slavery over time? Yes, no doubt about it. But is Kayleigh McEnany right when she says most of the founding fathers were against slavery? No. That's a complete and total lie. And the point here of what Kayleigh McEnany did was simply to try to attack Cori Bush by saying, when Cori Bush says July 4th really celebrates freedom for white people, because at the time, black people were enslaved, Kayleigh wants to say, well, no, the founding fathers were all against slavery. And that is simply inaccurate. And so her entire defense falls apart. Now, whether you agree that July 4th is a pro-slavery holiday or a celebration of an era when there was slavery, that's a debate. That's a debate you can have, and you can say, well, okay, yes, we're celebrating the anniversary of a date at which there was slavery. We no longer have that. We can still recognize that this is a milestone in the existence of the country without being in agreement with all the things that the country did at the time, right? Then you're in the weeds, you're in the details. But Kayleigh McEnany is just wrong. And this is the exact type of little pithy talking point that the average Fox News viewer will never investigate and will simply start to repeat and repeat and repeat. It's sad more than anything else. If you ever feel like you just don't have enough time to read all the books you want to read, you have to check out one of my favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist takes thousands of popular nonfiction books and distills each one down into an ebook or audiobook that you can get through in just 15 minutes, where you're getting all the key takeaways from the book. Just imagine how you'll be able to expand your horizons and knowledge by being able to soak up all of the important insights from 10 different books in an afternoon. Obviously, it's perfect for exposing yourself to a new book you otherwise wouldn't have time for, or you can use it to revisit a book you've already read, or use it to preview a book before you buy the full version and read it. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.